Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I am Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio. We got a busy show here. We got Parsons return to Dallas. We got a big matchup in the AFC. Who would have thought those teams would be 1-2 between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and two undefeated teams going at it too. A team that's had Philly's number with the Bucs and the Eagles. But we got to start with the news that broke yesterday around noon, when the Giants made the decision to start Jaxson Dart and bench Russell Wilson. I mean, for me as a Giants fan, I probably would have waited one more week. If they would have lost, he didn't play well against the Chargers, I probably would have made the move then. I think it's a little risky to make the move now. I think it's a little risky against a defense that's played really well. Jesse Minter, I know they don't have Khalil Mack, but this Chargers defense has played really, really well. This Chargers defense has played well. I mean, they have not given up more than 21 points in a game. I mean, so the Charger defense has played really well. This is a tough Charger defense he's going to face on Sunday. A defense with Jesse Minter, as we were talking pre-show about Jesse Minter. He was the defensive coordinator with Jim Harbaugh when he was at Michigan when they won a national championship. So Jesse Minter is a really, really good defensive coordinator. Even though this is kind of like a no-name defense the Chargers have outside of Derwin James, he's a good defensive coordinator. So this is a tough landing spot for Jaxson Dart, a tough landing spot for Jaxson Dart. But a lot of the fans wanted this. They wanted this. And I know eventually he's going to play. For me personally, I would have waited a week, but at this point, he was going to play anyways. And Russell Wilson is definitely not the future. So why not? Why not at this point start him? So we'll see what happens. Why not? But at this point, I would have waited a week, but I don't mind starting him at this point.
Yeah, I would have waited one more week too. Just coming off, next week playing the Saints, a much easier test than playing the Chargers. And yeah, Minter, thing about his teams, he will bring pressure. His defensive fronts are usually really, really good. And we know that it helped to have Andrew Thomas back last week, but that offensive line still is not great. So I assume the Chargers are going to get a lot of pressure on Dart. I assume they're going to try to make things kind of difficult. Yeah, I would have waited another week, but I guess I get why Dable is doing it. Because they are desperate right now. It's a desperate regime. Fans aren't happy, especially the way it ended last week with Russell Wilson out there. But it's a tough stretch coming up. Besides that Saint game, it's you hope he gains the confidence, but it'd be really tough with some of the defenses they got coming up.
Oh yeah. If you look at it after the Saints, 2 games against the Eagles, then in the middle. I know the Broncos haven't been as good as we thought they were going to be, but you got the Broncos in the middle there too. So. And then the 49ers after that. So there's really the only easy game in the next 5 is the Saints. So yeah, I mean, you brought it up, desperate regime, and we've talked about if it's the right move or not. We probably would have waited, but I think the big thing right here is Brian Daboll is trying to save his job, and if this was Brian Daboll's guy. This is the guy that Brian Daboll wanted to go out and get. They are still Daboll. He is trying to save his job. I feel like he's on the hot seat, and I feel like he's on the hot seat because of the way the season started. The way it started, week 1, doesn't score a touchdown. That happened. That's the third time that's happened. Week 2, he loses a game because the defensive coordinator pretty much gives it away by not, playing man coverage, playing zone coverage at the end of that game. And he's the defensive coordinator because he couldn't get along with, in my opinion, a really good defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale. So that was game 2. And then last week for Brian Daboll, this is the third time that he has not had a kicker or Graham Gano has gotten hurt during a game. That's inexcusable. That's inexcusable not to have a kicker during a game for the third time. You thought he would have learned in Washington last year to have a kicker. This is the same thing happened in Washington last year. The same thing. So this is a head coach that right now, because of the way he started the year as a head coach, it is on the hot seat. And I feel definitely like, he's desperate right now, and he needs something to try to save his job, because it has been outside of the first year, this has been a miserable 2+ years for this regime, for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen.
Well, it has been, and this offense too. Like, there's a lot of young pieces in this offense. Wendell Robinson, Malik Neighbors. You got Andrew Thomas on the line. Cam Scadaboo's having a really nice rookie year. Tyron Tracy's still, and then now you got Jaxson Dart too. So there's a lot of young, talented pieces, and look, I think that the ratings on the wall that Daboll isn't the offensive genius we'd all thought maybe he was going to be. But you got all these young pieces. Is you ever going to figure it out and ever become that guy with the head coach of the Giants? It's not with all these young pieces that you got. But yeah, that's not. I don't really see that happening. They're so bad around the goal in the red zone.
Oh my God,
it's comical.
Did you see those 2 drives? Did you see that last drive? Told you everything. That last drive on Sunday night told you everything you need to know about their red zone struggles. Get the ball. Wilson hits Robinson down the seams. First down, Wilson pretty much throws the ball into the tunnel when he's down by 2 touchdowns. He throws the ball into the tunnel. They get an intentional grounding call, and then they run a shot. They run a quarterback draw on the second play. Just a combination of terrible play calling and poor quarterback play there. And I think that was the drive that I think sealed Russell Wilson's fate as the starting quarterback.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely did. Because, throwing the ball out there, 4th down, throwing it out of the end zone, that's just a horrible look, especially 4th down. Who cared you throw a pick there? He felt, you could tell he really did not want to throw a pick that he threw in the back of the end zone, and that's fine. You got to at least take a shot there and get picked off. Who cares? But yeah, it's comical how bad they've been in the red zone. Even week 1, they had their opportunities. They couldn't capitalize. Week 2, they settled for a couple field goals against a bad Cowboys defense. So yeah, like it's been ugly, and that's the one thing I worry about with Dart is the one thing, and that's when I said even when we come out, Lane Kiffin schemes everything up for his quarterback. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot different for him now. He looked good in the preseason, but it's tough to really judge anything in the preseason because your Giants look like the champions.
I know. Yeah.
So it's tough, but he looked, so you should have some hope, but it's tough. But yeah, I like Dart. We'll see what he can do, but it's going to be tough with the coaching staff that I don't really trust.
Yeah, exactly. This coaching staff you don't trust. I mean, the way he's going to have to win, they're going to have to win games with Dart. It feels like from what you said about Lane Kiffin about things being schemed up, is they're going to have to be winning the game. They have to be winning the game. They have to be winning games. They have to be controlling the ground game with Scadaboo. The defense has got to play well because, as you said, when things went off script last year for Jaxson Dart, that's when he didn't play well. So yeah, the way they're going to have to, win games is they're going to have to run the ball and they're going to have to play. The key to this season now is going to be Cam Scadaboo running the football and them getting pressure on the quarterback. And you saw some of that last week. Probably the best you saw it all. It was definitely the best you saw it all year last week. You saw some of that last week. I mean, you saw, Scadaboo run the ball pretty well. And then you saw the pass rush of Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, another story for another day is that why Abdul Carter is playing middle linebacker. I'd rather have him rushing the passer, but the Giants are so thin at linebacker they had to do that. But yeah, it's going to be their pass rush with Lord, with Dex, with Thibs, with Brian Burns, and with Abdul Carter, and the running game of Scadaboo. That's got to be their formula to win games because you watch Jaxson Dart more than anybody, any Giant. I was going to say you watch more college football than you watch more Jaxson Dart than anybody has watched because you watch so much college football. So you know that you're probably not going to see a lot of come from behind wins with him. You're going to see a lot of wins where the Giants win like 23-17, and they're winning the entire game.
Yeah, absolutely. You could totally see that happening. Because and it's going to be a little bit different than what he's used to when he was at Ole Miss, but he's somebody that he did have really good arm strength at Ole Miss. He's got some athleticism that he could use for some run read option type stuff. But it's and I've said it about Lane Kiffin's offense. It's gimmicky. You don't know how it's going to translate to the NFL game. And he'll take his shot. Like, the thing about Wilson is he really doesn't take many shots. Dart will do it. Sometimes it'll be very unnecessary, but he will take his shots down the field. They might get picked off. Maybe Neighbors comes down with one or something, or even Wendell Robinson. So some of the weapons you have that can be deep ball threats could really help out Jaxson Dart. But he's not going to be afraid to take shots, and that's what it felt like. Russell Wilson was afraid to take shots.
Yeah. I mean, Russell Wilson did start taking shots down the field, but the problem is outside of the Dallas game, they were getting intercepted. They were getting intercepted. So yeah, so Sunday I'll actually be at the game. I'm actually
So
after the whiteout, I'm doing the doubleheader. Yeah. So after the whiteout, and that's what I planned on doing. I thought, we'll go. Me and my dad will go to the whiteout, and then on the way home, because we thought, this wasn't going to be really that significant of a game. We thought it was, and the tickets actually weren't that bad either. The tickets I bought weren't that bad for this game. So I'm actually on the way home going to this game. Jaxson Dart's. I didn't know it was going to be Jaxson Dart's first start, but it's going to be Jaxson Dart's first start.
Then you got to be excited.
I got to be absolutely. I got to be excited.
Yeah.
I'll be in the building for Jaxson Dart's first start. So Sunday, Chargers, Giants, Jaxson Dart's first start, and Jim Harbaugh has had a lot of success against rookie quarterbacks. He's 8-2 against rookie quarterbacks. He's got a really good defensive coordinator in Jesse Minter. I think that Dart is going to struggle here. I think he's going to struggle in the spot. Now, I think the Giants defense, just like last week, is going to keep him in it, and they're going to get pressure on Herbert. They're going to keep him in the game, contain Amari and Hampton, because they don't have Najee Harris to the Chargers. The Giants are lucky the Chargers have some injuries here. They won't have Khalil Mack, and they don't have Rashawn Slater. If those two guys were playing, the Chargers would win this game by 2 or 3 scores easily. If those two guys were playing, and the Chargers would probably be arguably, if they had Rashawn Slater healthy, our Chargers would arguably be the second best team in the AFC behind the Bills. But with those injuries, I don't think they're there. But they're still a very well coached team, and to me, they're a Super Bowl contender. They got a great chance to win the AFC West. And I think they go to 4-0 here. I think Justin Herbert has another really good game. Quentin Johnson's made a difference this year. He's really stepped up for them. I think he has a good game. The thing is, the Giants' front four is good, but their back seven has been terrible this year. Their back seven has been awful. I think Justin Herbert takes advantage of that, throws a couple touchdown passes, and I think they force a couple turnovers from Jaxson Dart. I think it's an up and down game for Dart. I think he has some success with his legs, and Scadaboo has some success running the football, but I think Dart turns the ball over a couple times here, and I think it's a close game till about middle of the third quarter. I think the Chargers end up pulling away. I got the Chargers here 24-13, but Justin, can Jaxson Dart win his first start in the NFL?
No, I'm with I got Chargers as well here, 27-17. I think Justin Herbert's gonna play pretty well, and I think for the Giants, they got to get out to a quick start. Let them play from in front. Be able to run the ball with Scadaboo, but I think they're going to fall behind again this week, and I think there's going to be a turnover or two there that Justin Herbert's going to take advantage of, and I think the Giants defense will keep them in it for a while here, but I don't think they're going to do I don't think they're going to make enough plays to win them this football game, and I think Dart will make some plays, but not enough, and the Chargers get out of MetLife for the win.
Yeah, I see the Chargers winning this one. I just don't think. Dart, this is a tough opponent for Jaxson Dart to play in his first game. Honestly, even with the way Russell Wilson played last week, I didn't think they would beat the Chargers, but I think they would have had a better chance. I think this is just for a young quarterback. This is. I know personnel wise, this isn't that you don't know a ton of the names. Not a lot of people know a lot of the names in the Charger defense, but this is a tough defensive coordinator, a tough coaching staff to face in your first game. That's why I think the Chargers come out victorious in this one on Sunday. But we thought before yesterday, we thought this was for like 3 weeks. We thought this was going to be the league going to this week. Micah Parsons returning to Dallas. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the ovation is. I mean, it's, as we saw, it was the saga all off season. Now he's making his return to face Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Interesting comments from Parsons last week about Dak Prescott saying that it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt sacking him because they're still very close. I feel like they're still. I feel like Parsons is still. I feel like Micah Parsons didn't want to leave the Cowboys, but Jerry Jones gave him no choice because he didn't want to properly compensate him, and he for some reason didn't want to negotiate with his agent. It was an absolute. Let's be honest. It was an absolutely terrible trade for the Cowboys, and it's shown how terrible of a trade it was because look at their defense. They gave up 30. Look at the last 2 weeks. They gave up 37 points to a quarterback who just got benched. 37 points to a quarterback that just got benched, and then last week they gave up 31 points to a quarterback that has been struggling, Caleb Williams. So this defense is the worst in football, and a big reason for that is them trading Micah Parsons for an average defensive tackle and no day 2 or day 3 picks. So this was a terrible trade for the Cowboys. Before we get into the game, let's talk about what we expect in terms of how the Cowboy fans are going to react to Parsons. And I think it's going to be a mix. I think it's going to be a mix because there might be some boos, there might be some cheers, because certain fans at this point in the year still have hope. And the Cowboys are 1-2, the Packers are 2-1. So I do think there are some Cowboy fans out there that still have hope. So I do think there'll be a little bit of boos because of what happened in the offseason, even though I think it was all Jerry's fault, not Micah's fault. But I think there'll be some boos, but I think mostly cheers. I'd say like 75% cheers, 25% boos. Now they're not going to have a tribute video for him. I'm back and forth on that one. I mean, I know he wanted out, but still, I would show him a little bit of respect for what he did. And maybe Jerry should acknowledge that he was wrong by trading him. So, I think there should have been a tribute video. I really do. I think the Cowboys are handling it wrong. I think there should have been a tribute video for Micah Parsons. I really do. I think there should have been. I think there should have been a tribute video there. But I think for the fans, it'll be 75% cheers, 25% boos. Now, if this game was played, say, in the second half of the year in November or December, I think there would all be cheers because I think all the Cowboy fans would be siding with Micah and siding against Jerry. I feel like it's going to be like 75% of the Cowboy fans will side with Micah, and like 25% of the diehard Cowboy fans will side with Jerry. So I think it'll be a mix. I think it'll be a mix of boos and cheers. More cheers than boos, though. How do you think Parsons is going to be received Sunday night?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to get a lot more cheers and boos because I think at this point, a lot of the Cowboys fans are angry at Jerry with the way things are happening, and I don't think they blame Parsons. So even though Jerry the other day, they're still a playoff team now, according to him. Cowboys are still a playoff team. He's got to stop talking.
He's turned into one of the worst GMs in the league. He's turned into one of the worst GMs in the league. Now, he's better than Joe Shane, but he's turned into one of the worst GMs in the league. He's a bottom 10 general manager. I mean, that's not a playoff team. And that defense is absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, that team can't stop high school varsity, junior varsity team at this point, the way they're playing out there. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to get mostly cheered because I think most of the Cowboys fans, they're angry at Jerry. They understand that it was mostly Jerry's fault that all this happened. Yeah, there's probably some that are mad at Parsons, probably side with Jerry, but there's probably a lot more that side with Parsons, and I think he's going to get ovation. The tribute video, yeah, like maybe you should have had a quick one. I know they made a couple playoffs. I know they didn't make any deep runs or anything, but I think 30 seconds would have been.
Yeah, give him something. Give him something.
Yeah.
Give him something. Don't give him nothing. Give him something. Try to do something right. Try to do something right as an organization. Try to do something right and give him a tribute video. I would have given him a little bit. You're right. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Give him a tribute video for the fans. For the fans.
Yeah.
For the fans to give him a nice emotion, and then he can give a salute to the fans. Give him something.
Yeah, that's all I think the Cowboys had to do, and I would have been fine with it. But yeah, Jerry decided to double down on everything, and he just can't stop himself. So yeah, I'm with you. That just a little something would have been nice for him. But yeah, I expect his return to be mostly cheers here, and I expect this Packers team to. I think they got a nice wake-up call last week the way they played.
Yeah, they definitely got a wake-up call, and a big reason for that was how pathetic their offensive line was. Their offensive line was awful, and Jordan Love threw a terrible interception. And I'm telling you, if you're Jordan Love, you want to be in that class of you want to be in the class of top quarterbacks in the league. You can't throw that pick because let's be honest, if he doesn't throw that pick, they win the game because there's no way Joe Flacco and that Browns offense is driving down the field against that Packers defense. There's no way that's happening. So that was a bad loss for the Packers last week. So they did get a wake-up call, but getting into this game between the Packers and Cowboys, I know the Packers got injuries on the defensive line, on the offensive line, because I think Zach Tom's going to be out, and I think Banks is going to be out as well. So they got a lot of injuries. That offensive line really struggled last week, giving up 5 sacks to the Browns. But I do think Jordan Love plays. I mean, everybody plays. I mean, everyone plays well against this Cowboys defense. Everyone does. And I just think it's going to be no different for Jordan Love. I think he's going to play well. I think he's going to throw for 3 or 4 touchdown passes. They might contain Josh Jacobs, but I think Love throws for 300 yards, for 3 or 4 touchdown passes. The Packers get in the 30s. Now, I think there's going to be a lot of motivation for Dak going into this game. So I think Dak will keep them in. I think this game will be close going into the fourth just because of who the quarterback is. Dak's a competitor. Dak's a leader. Dak's one of the top. He's a top 10 quarterback in this league. Dak should not be, honestly, Dak's too good to be on this team. Dak's too good to be on the Dallas Cowboys. And that's a fact. Dak is too good to be on the Dallas Cowboys. And I think he's going to compete in this game. I know having CeeDee Lamb out is going to hurt, but George, I think Dak's going to get the ball to. I think George Pickens will have a pretty good game. I think he'll be able to get the ball to Turpin and Tolbert at times. And I think he'll compete, but I think the difference in this game is going to be the team with the better roster, and it's clearly the Packers. I think in the fourth quarter, that the Packers have like a 2-score lead. They're going to get pressure. Micah Parsons, I think he has a sack or 2 here. I think he has a sack or 2 here. Rashawn Gary, I think they have like 3 or 4 sacks. And the Cowboy offensive line is going to struggle too because Cooper Beebe is out and Tyler Guyton has been absolutely horrendous at left tackle for them too. So their offensive line is very average. So I think there'll be a couple sacks there. I'm going to go Packers by double digits. I'm going Packers by double digits here. I got the Packers 31-20 over the Cowboys on Sunday night in the big Sunday night game and Micah Parsons return. Justin, can Dak Prescott lead the Cowboys to an upset win in Parsons' return?
No, I'm with you here. I got the Packers 31-16. I just think with CeeDee Lamb out, it's going to be even tougher for that offense to get going. I do think they'll get some yards, and I do think they'll put up some points, but I don't think this defense is stopping Jordan Love, especially you mentioned how bad they played last week. I think that offense will come out, be pretty explosive, hit some big plays early, and I think they win pretty comfortably in this one. And I do think Parsons is going to get a sack or 2. And I do think, can the Cowboys get any semblance of running and going against the Packers defense? It might be difficult. So I'm going with the Packers here by a couple scores. I think, think Packers maybe. There was somebody in the locker room last week in Green Bay. They're talking about, maybe, we could go undefeated or whatever. So I think, they needed a little humbling last week. And I think that really kind of motivates them this week to go back out there and take care of business against the Dallas team. And even for Parsons, too, to kind of go take it to his old team.
Yeah, and I think the worst thing that happened to the Cowboys is the Packers losing last week because they're going to be motivated. They're going to be motivated, and ready to go. The Packers are going to be ready to go to play this game. They absolutely are. I think they're going to be ready to go, especially Jordan Love. He had a bad pick at the end of the game against Cleveland that led to a Browns touchdown. I think he's going to be ready to go and ready to win this game. So, yeah, I mean, I think that Green Bay is just clearly the better team here. They're clearly the better team. Micah Parsons and this trade makes them clearly. I mean, they were still the better team in my opinion even before the trade. Now it's not even close. Green Bay is definitely the better team. Yeah, I think Parsons gets a sack or 2 here. I just don't think that. I mean, if you're the Cowboys, to not get embarrassed, you are going to have a tight end. You're going to have Jake Ferguson chipping on almost every play. But especially early in the game. Early in the game, you're going to have Parsons doubled and have Jake Ferguson chipping because if you have like Rashawn Gary getting 3 sacks and Mike Parsons getting none, at least you're not getting embarrassed from what happened this offseason. So you're going to have Jake Ferguson chipping. But eventually, though, I think Parsons is going to get sacks because the Packers are going to be up by a couple scores, which is going to force Ferguson to go out to not chip and go out, and then that's going to open up some one-on-ones for Micah Parsons, and I think he's going to get a sack or 2. But yeah, this is the Packers are clearly the better team. That's why I think they win by 2 scores.
Yeah. I think you said it perfectly there. I think they win by a couple scores. I think Parsons can go off in this game, and the Cowboys just don't have much of a chance, especially now without Lamb. Like I think Dak does what he can do, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep up because their defense is just absolutely pathetic, and they really can't stop anything right now.
Oh no, absolutely not, absolutely not. How bad is Eberflus? I saw a stat. I don't know if they played all zone coverage last week. The first 2 weeks, they were the only team in the NFL not to play man coverage. If your defense isn't working, wouldn't you adjust? He's been awful. Matt Eberflus has been terrible as a defensive coordinator, and Caleb Williams did it to him last week. Matt Eberflus is awful. This guy is he? I'm honestly watching these games. Is he trying to get fired? Is he trying not to, after the Micah Parsons trade? Is he just trying to get fired with the defense he's playing?
He might be, because it is bad. I think they mostly again last week played all zone. The moments I saw, and going back watch the highlights, it felt like mostly zone again. So yeah, I just don't. You would think you would change some things up. I know the secondary isn't great, but you would try something new to try to get out of a rut. But yeah, I don't know what Eberflus doing if he's just getting lazy on the job. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's bad. And we knew it wasn't gonna be great going in, but yeah, you lose a guy
No.
like Parsons, it's even worse, and it's magnifying it big time lately.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like guys are just receivers are just running through their defense. They just run through their defense. They're playing cover two, and receivers are just running, which is a kind of an ancient defense nowadays to play all the time.
Mm.
But they're just playing cover two, and receivers are just running down the field. It's like uncontested. It's amazing. The only way the Cowboys can win this game is get pressure. And the Packer offensive line is susceptible to that because it has struggled. It struggled last week and they have injuries on it. The only way the Cowboys win this game is if they pressure Jordan Love. If they don't get pressure on Jordan Love, they don't have the Packers are scoring 30 points easily.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. With the weapons, I know even Packers banged up offensively, but still, I think Jordan Love should easily put up 30. Like if the Giants are putting up 37 on you, Caleb Williams going down putting up 30 on you, Jordan Love and his offense should be able to put up at least 30 points on this defense. So yeah, they should be able to hit the shots downfield. They should have a pretty good game offensively. Yeah, I think they from what happened last week, I think they go out there pretty annoyed and go out there and make a statement to and like the Packers too, because of course they played the Bears twice a year in the Eberflus defense. So
Yeah.
they I know it's a pretty basic defense, but still they already know the Packers have owned the Bears. Did Eberflus ever beat? I don't think Eberflus ever beat them, right?
No, because he was fired. Let me see. No, he didn't beat him in 22. He didn't beat him. He didn't beat him in 23. He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he never beat him. He never beat him.
Yeah,
no, he was 0-5 against the Packers. Eberflus was 0-5 against the Packers. The only time the Bears beat the Packers last year, but he was fired at that point, rightfully so too.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because he was awful.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Yeah, so that one time they beat him lately. So yeah, so they already know how to beat this offense or this Eberflus defense too. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this Packers team wins by a couple scores and they win comfortably in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Packers 31-20 over the Cowboys. Now we got a matchup of two undefeated teams in the NFC between the Bucs and the Eagles. Both had dramatic wins last week, and both quarterbacks, man, both of these are. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback to me. What he did last week proved. Oh, these people say, "Oh, he's a game manager. He just wins because of the talent on his team." Stop. This guy's a top 5 quarterback in the league. I'm going to say he's a great quarterback. He's a great quarterback, right? He's top 5 quarterback. And you could argue with Burrow's injuries and Lamar's, late game, issues. You may be able to put him to. I would listen to an argument if he's top 3 for Jalen Hurts. I would. And then Baker Mayfield. How good has he been? How good has he been since he's been the last two and a half years? How good has Baker Mayfield been? It's like a career resurrection. I mean, Cleveland's probably. What the hell did we do? Getting rid of this guy? What did we do getting rid of this guy? Guy plays with a torn labrum for an entire season, and we get rid of him. And look at our quarterback situation now; it's terrible. So Baker Mayfield has been awesome. Both these quarterbacks have been awesome. I think this is going to be a fun game. We know the Bucs own the Eagles. That's the one thing. This is the one team the Eagles don't like to play because they went down to Tampa the last 2 times. They've gotten destroyed. But I do think it's a different Eagle team though, because I think the Bucs kind of got them at the right time. When they were struggling at the end of 23, and then they were struggling at the beginning of 24. I think this is a little bit of a different Eagle team, and this Eagle team is the healthier team. The Eagle team is the healthier team because the Bucs aren't, because Mike Evans is probably not going to play. We don't know if Tristan Wirfs or Chris Godwin are going to play, even though Ibuka has really stepped up. I think Ibuka is right now could be a favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's been playing great. Ibuka has really stepped up. I do think that this is going to be a really close competitive game, but I do take the Eagles. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think the difference in this game is when the Eagles get into the red zone, they score touchdowns, and when the Bucs get into the red zone, they kick field goals. So I think it comes out in the end, but I think Jalen Hurts leads the game-winning drive. But here's the thing with the Eagles. If the Bucs are down by a score or tied, I think there's a good chance they win because Baker Mayfield has been so good in the clutch this year, so good in the clutch. So I think it's a close competitive game, though, but I got to go with the team that's healthier. I'm going to go with the Eagles here, 27-23. But, Justin, can the Bucs continue to own the Eagles and win their 3rd in a row down in Tampa?
Yeah, I'm going to take the home dog here. I got Tampa Bay 23-20. Yeah, give the Eagles credit. They had, 33 passing yards going to halftime last week, and they came out and they looked a lot better. But to win that game last week, it took 2 blocked field goals to get that thing done. And I think the Eagles, like the running game really hasn't clicked yet either. Like Barkley's kind of been a little stifled early on here. I think the Bucs can kind of make the Eagles one-dimensional here. And you mentioned about Baker. That guy's a dog, and to only pay him $100 million for what you're getting out of him for a quarterback spot that's a discount.
He's getting paid
a
like
big
$33 million a year. He's getting paid like, I mean, no offense, nothing against Dak Prescott. He's a good quarterback. He's getting like half of what Dak Prescott's making, and he's been as good.
Yeah, it's a steal. And Tampa made a great signing with him, and the Browns made an absolute mistake. And we should have known that Baker had like the time I figured that out was when he was at OU and they went up to Columbus, knocked him off, and he plants the flag in the middle of the field. Like we probably should have. That guy's got some. He's got that little bit of dog in him, and I think Baker goes down the field. They're trailing late, and I think he goes down and gets a game-winning touchdown because he'll put his body in the line for it too. And I know that could affect him down the line later in the year, but I think Baker plays well again this week. And I know the Bucs are banged up, but I think their defense keeps them in it. I think they get a turnover or 2 here, and I think Tampa Bay moves to 4-0.
There's a good chance they win, and there's got to be a conversation once this team gets healthy, it gets Godwin, gets Wirfs, gets everyone healthy, that there is a good chance we could be talking about this team being a contender right there with the Eagles, with the Rams, with the Lions, with the Packers. This team is probably a top 5 team in the NFC. You can't put the Niners there because of the Bosa injury, but this is, to me, when healthy, this is definitely a top 5 team in the NFC and a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see it. With Baker, I could see Baker carrying them to it. I think they got the offensive talent to do it. And when they get healthy too, they're only gonna get better. So this is gonna be a good test for them this week to kind of see where they're at, and they're gonna cruise to win that division. So they could really be the 1 seed, which could set them because that division is pathetic. I thought Atlanta was gonna be better. I thought Carolina's be a bit better this year, but it's pathetic. So they should win all 6 games of their division. So so they could maybe, be a 1 seed, set themselves up, and I could see Baker being able to carry them there. So I'm with you. I think, if Tampa Bay gets healthy when they do, I put them up there in the contender category in the NFC.
I think the one issue is Todd Bowles. And I don't get what he did when he had a 2-score lead, just letting the Jets march down the field twice to make that a game. I don't get what he did. To me, and there were a lot of penalties too. To me, the issue is the coach. That's why out of those 5 teams, I still have them 5 because of the coach. Because if you look at the top teams in the NFC, you look at the Rams. That's obviously the best coach of them all. The Lions, probably the second best coach in Dan Campbell. You will say what you want about Sirianni, but he won a Super Bowl. He's a better coach than Todd Bowles. And then the Packers, Matt LaFleur, he's a better coach. Out of those 5 contending teams, the Bucs clearly have the worst coach. Even though Bowles isn't as bad as he was with the Jets, I mean, I think he's definitely clearly the worst coach of any of those 4. So that's what I think is holding the Bucs back a little bit, and that's why they could get to the Super Bowl, or they very easily, like last year, get knocked down in the first round. Because the one thing I just don't trust with this team is the head coach. I don't trust the head coach. I think he's average at best.
Yeah, no, I agree with you with that. Yeah, I think he's an average one. And last week, letting the Jets march on the field like that was because that thing was it was what, 26-10, 26-9, something like that. They were in cruise control. And I don't like coaches when they do that. When your defensive plan's been working all game, and you decide to kind of play more of a prevent type defense and allow teams to kind of march on the field like Jets did. I never really liked that. And he tends to do that at times. So I don't love it. Never been a huge Bull fan. I do think I'm with you, he's a little bit better than he was with the Jets. But I still don't love him. I would take the other 4 ahead of all of the other 4 coaches ahead of him right now. So I'm with you. I think he's average, but he's gotten a little bit better. And he's gotten a little bit better the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's got a little bit better just because he's a better roster. He's not as just. The Jets, that was a terrible situation. It was a terrible situation. The best team he had with the Jets, he's actually the last Jet coach to have a winning record. He won 10 games in 2015. But once the roster got worse, obviously he couldn't overcome it. But he's an average coach. But with the roster the Bucs have and the quarterback the Bucs have, I put them in that category with the top teams in the NFC once they get healthy. But should be an interesting game in Philly. You got a team with the Bucs that owns the Eagles, but you got the Eagles who are the healthier team going in. So it should be a good one. Should be a good one on Sunday afternoon in Tampa. But we'll move on to an interesting game in Kansas City between the Chiefs and the Ravens. They meet again. The Chiefs have had the Ravens number. Lamar Jackson has only beaten the Chiefs once in his career. That was in 2021. He's only beaten them once in his career. And here's the thing: the Chiefs. I know they won last week. They didn't play great. The Giants had their opportunities. They missed opportunities, especially in the first half. But the Chiefs did end up getting the win last week. And I think that's going to get that's going to give the Chiefs some confidence. I think Mahomes is going to play well this week. I think they're going to be able to run. I think they'll run the ball with Pacheco. I think they'll be able to run because the Ravens' run defense, as we saw Monday night, really has struggled. So I think the Chiefs commit to running the football. I think they're going to move the ball in this game. I think Mahomes will throw a couple touchdown passes. I think Pacheco has his best game of the season. I do think Lamar plays well and Derrick Henry has a good game. But here's the thing with the Ravens. How do you trust the Ravens against a good team at the end of the game? You can't. You cannot trust the Ravens against a good team at the end of a game. And this has been going on for years. And this has been going on the entire Lamar Jackson era. And pretty much the whole John Harbaugh era outside of that one season in 2012. John Harbaugh is lucky he won a Super Bowl in 2012. He is lucky. Because pretty much outside of that year, it's pretty much been the Ravens falling apart late in games. It was going back to when they played the Patriots in that AFC Championship game and Lee Evans dropped the ball. It even goes back to 2010 when they had a 21-7 lead against the Steelers and they blew it. This has pretty much been most of the John Harbaugh era outside of that 1 year, and pretty much the entire Lamar Jackson era is they've been a really good team, but against the good teams, they don't make the plays that happen. Derrick Henry's already had 2 huge fumbles in big spots. I don't trust this Ravens team in a big spot. It's weird to say one of these teams is going to be 1-3, but if you told me which team is going to be 1-3, which team would you think is going to be 1-3? Chiefs or Ravens? Even though the Chiefs they're not. This is probably the worst Chiefs team since 2021. Maybe even arguably since 2017. This might be the worst team in the Mahomes era for the Chiefs, but I'm still going Chiefs here. I can't go against them against the Ravens. I'm going to go Chiefs 28-24. But Justin, can Lamar Jackson and the Ravens finally go into Arrowhead and win a game?
I might be a sucker at it because I picked the Ravens last week and week 1, but I'm gonna take the Ravens here 27-20. Yeah, I know the Ravens defense are banged up too. Can the Chiefs move the ball? Their Chiefs offense is just so out of sync. They haven't been able to run the ball. I know, you mentioned the Ravens can't stop it. They're giving up 149 rushing yards a game right now and almost 5 yards a carry. They've been bad. If the Chiefs can't run the ball against this team, can they run the ball all year? And I think Lamar I think Lamar that offense does enough. I think Henry gets over the fumbling problem that he's had, and I know they have Mahomes, but I'm still just not impressed with that Chiefs offense right now. Their best offense is throw it up there and hope maybe we get a PI or who would have
thought Tyquan Thornton, who you guys drafted in Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick completely ruined in New England, but. Throw the ball up to Tyquan. Who would have thought throwing the ball up to Tyquan Thornton would be the Chiefs' offense?
Yeah, that's been their offense lately, and it's worked. I'm surprised Thornton has hands. He dropped everything in New England or just ran bad routes. So he's figured it out in Kansas City, looks like. But I still know. I know this Ravens defense stinks, but I still don't love this Chiefs offense. I think even the Ravens can make a stop this week in a big moment, or Lamar can finally get over the late game yips and finally put one away. So I'm going to go with the Ravens, but I might be really regretting this pick Sunday evening.
Yeah, so the thing about going to this game is what's going to turn around, the Chiefs offense or the Ravens defense? Because usually those two units are really good, but both have been bad to start the year. So which thing is going to turn around? To me, I got to trust Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to turn around before I trust the Ravens defense to turn around, because there's a chance they're going to be without Madubuike again. There's going to be a chance they're going to be without Madubuike again. And really, outside of Roquan Smith, this team has not been able to stop the run. They really haven't been able to stop the run. So if I'm going to say which team do I trust more, which thing do I trust turning around more, I'm going to say the Chiefs offense. I'm going to say the Chiefs offense is going to turn around because to me, they still have the best player in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes behind center. So I think the Chiefs. I think if we had to give me the choice, I would say the Chiefs offense. And another thing about the Ravens is their O line is really gotten worse. I know they still got Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Lindenbaum, but to lose, you could see that they lost pieces. You could see that they lost Simpson. You could see that they lost Zeitler, and you could see that they lost Morgan Moses, even though Morgan Moses is looking like he's washed up, seeing the way he's played with the Patriots. But you could see that they've lost pieces and not replaced them because their offensive line on Monday night was terrible.
Yeah, for Lamar to get sacked 7 times, that should be impossible.
And still, he played really well. I thought he played a really good game.
Yeah, I thought he played pretty well. That their defense didn't help them out at all. They gave up the 295+ yard drive. So, that was a great point about the Ravens off the line because it is atrocious right now, and Lamar should not be getting sacked 7 times in a football game. But yeah, because like even the Chiefs' offense last year wasn't that great until like the end of the year they started to kind of click. But like, so but I can't take the Ravens defense. So I think I have to go with the Chiefs offense because I don't think this Ravens defense is going to figure it out anytime soon either. So because of Mahomes under center, I'll take them to correct their offense. And they're probably more desperate to figure out their offense because like the AFC North is pretty much already over. Like I don't think the Steelers are any good. The Bengals don't have Joe Burrow.
I just think with the way the Ravens are playing, the Steelers have. I wouldn't say I think the Ravens are clearly the favorite, but the way the Ravens are playing right now, I'd say the Steelers have a 30% chance to win the division.
Yeah. So yeah, because the Steelers should have lost they should have lost last week, and So I should say like the division for the Ravens. So like the Chiefs are probably a lot more desperate to try to figure out their offense right now than the Ravens defense because they should be able to win that division just with the injuries and the team, But so I will agree with you that the Chiefs offense figures it out because at least they're gonna get Rashid Rice back in a couple weeks. I know they're hoping to get Worthy. I know it's questionable this week, so that would help their offense. So I'm gonna agree with you that the Chiefs offense figures it out, but like I'm not totally confident in them either. But maybe with Mahomes and Reed, I trust them a little bit more than that Ravens defense right now.
Yeah, same with me. Even though you think the Ravens are going to win, I think the Chiefs are going to win because I just think the Ravens are going to do what they normally do at the end of games and fall apart. So, but you're saying for the future, you trust the Chiefs,
future
offense than the Ravens defense.
I'll take them because because I don't trust the Ravens. Yeah, and they blow a lot of big games, and that week 1 last week. So yeah, their defense struggles to get those big stops, and I'll trust the Chiefs to figure out in the future more than the Ravens defense.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. It's gonna be an interesting game. 4:25 on CBS with Nance and Romo. Nance and Romo have the call. Should be an interesting game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Now, what we'll before we get to your Patriots, we'll hit on the Thursday night game tomorrow night between the Seahawks and Cardinals. Cardinals coming in, they lost big loss with James Conner. He's been a big part of that offense. Seahawks come in with winning 2 in a row. Cardinals come off a loss last week. I know the Seahawks beat them twice last year. I do think this game is going to be close and competitive. But I'm going to take the quarterback I feel like is going to make less mistakes. Because I think the big thing with the Cardinals is I think they've been pretty good against the run. I think they'll contain the running game of Seattle. Because Seattle's going to want to run the ball with Clint Kubiak, so they'll contain the run. And I do think they force a couple turnovers. I think Sam Darnold does throw a couple interceptions here. And I think Kyler Murray, I don't think he has a great game statistically, but I think he makes less mistakes than Sam Darnold. I think that's going to be the difference here. And I think he has the ball at the end, and he leads them on a game-winning drive. I think this is going to be close and competitive. Seattle is a road favorite here, 1.5. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. I got the Seahawks 23-20 over the Cardinals. But, Justin, can Sam Darnold lead the Seahawks to their third straight win?
Yeah, I'm going to take Seattle this one, 23-18. Arizona, I know disappointing. They got that safety last week, and late in that game, they still end up blowing it. I've been pretty impressed with Seattle, especially defensively. I thought they were like another year away. I know maybe not the greatest competition yet, but I really like the way their defense is playing. I think Jaxson Smith and Nigba has really stepped up this year as the number 1 so far. I think Sam Darnold gets in the ball. I think he makes a couple of big plays in this one. And Arizona's offense, hasn't, they beat in like the Saints and the Panthers. Then they lose a tough one last week on the road in San Fran. I know you were high kind of on Arizona going on the year, making the playoffs. Like I get they have the talent, all that. there's just something about Arizona, so I just don't totally trust. And I think Seattle goes in there Thursday night and pulls out a victory.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Arizona now. I don't think Marvin Harrison is playing up to his potential, and the loss of Connor is definitely a loss for that team. But moving on to your Patriots, as they got to bounce back after a brutal loss. A loss that's, to me, inexcusable on Sunday. Yeah. They dominated the Steelers, but 5 turnovers. Ramondre Stevenson needs to be benched. He needs to be benched. It should be Travion Henderson and Antonio Gibson should be the running backs. That should be the tandem. Ramondre Stevenson needs to be benched. I'm surprised they just didn't cut him after that game. He was awful. You can't have like 3 fumbles? 3 fumbles, and he stayed in the game. 3 fumbles. That made no sense. Offensive line, I don't think played well. I think Drake May actually played a decent game. I think he did. The problem is that Elliott Wolf and Bill Belichick are putting garbage offensive talent on this team. There's the talent around Drake May right now is not good. It's not good. Hunter Henry's okay. Kajam Boutte is okay. Do you even know Stephon Diggs plays for the Patriots? Let's be honest. Do you even know Stephon Diggs plays for the Patriots? He's been awful. When they could have traded for the guy who scored a touchdown against them last week in DK Metcalf, they had a better second-round pick, and they didn't make that trade. That's on Elliott Wolf. I mean, I think this Patriot offense it definitely has struggled early in the year, but I think this will be a bounce-back week because I know the Panthers pitched a shutout last week, but I think that was more because of how pathetic Atlanta was. And I think that this Patriot offense scored. I think they play well. I think they run the ball with it should be with Gibson and Henderson. I think they run the ball well. I think Drake May continues playing well, throwing a couple touchdown passes. And I think Bryce Young. Do you know about Christian Gonzalez? What his status is this week?
Vrabel said a little bit ago they're hoping to ramp him up to have him play this week, so we'll see. But I do think they'll still have issues on the back end. I think Bryce Young throws a couple touchdown passes. But I think the defense makes a bit, just like they did in the Miami game. I think either Harold Landry or Milton Williams makes a play at the end, and that's why I picked the Patriots every week this week. If they don't win this week, I don't know how often I can pick the Patriots for the rest of the season. But I'm going to pick. I'm going to go to the well. I'm going to keep going to the well and pick them. So I'm going to pick them again. I'm going to take the Patriots here, 27-20 over the Panthers. And Justin, do you agree with me that your Patriots will bounce back this week? They better. I have them too, 24-21. Yeah, you mentioned the 5 since Brady left, that might be the most frustrating of all the losses. Either that one or the Brady return, just because they should have won that one. Yeah, but that one was probably more heartbreak.
Last week should be completely frustrating because you spent all this money on this. You spent all this money in free agency on this team. Elliott Wolf goes out and spends all this money, and you completely outplay a Steeler team who I think is very average to above average.
Mediocre.
Very mediocre. You outplay them, and you lose the game at home. And how about Demario Douglas? What are you doing? Go forward. Go forward for the first down. That makes no sense. Another pick that isn't looking good. Another Belichick offensive skill guy that's not looking good. He's had a ton of those in his career that he drafted. So another Belichick skill guy that hasn't seemingly looking like hasn't worked out. But yeah, I mean I think it was a disappointing loss. That's a game that needs to be won. If the Patriots want to be a playoff team, that's a game they need to win. And if they miss the playoffs, they'll be looking at that game last week. They'll definitely be circling that game if they miss the playoffs.
Yeah, they will. Because that's 2 you let slip away. You know, that Raider one was definitely winnable in last week. So if there's 2 games that you should have had, and I guess Gonzalez had a couple quotes saying he was upset that he did not play last week, and he indicated to the staff that he wanted to play. Sounded like it wasn't the decision. So I assume he's going to be out there, and they really need it, even though defense looked a little bit better. But yeah, I think why Stevens still out there is because Henderson hasn't totally looked great running the ball so far. Like he's only averaging like 3 yards a carry barely. So I think that's why so far they still want Stevenson, because you'd have to probably trade for another back at the moment. And I think they like Gibson is more, and like Gibson can't be like a third down. Well, he can't be like that bruising first down back that you want grab a couple yards. Like he's not that type of running back. So I think that's why they're still waiting on the Stevenson. The other thing I like Vrabel saying the other day was they did a study because they have 27 penalties through 3 games, and he said we did a study that does not correlate to losing. I don't like hearing that as a fan. I don't like.
No, that's not good.
That's the players.
That's the one thing you can't like. I like Mike Vrabel. I don't like that comment.
Yeah, I did not either. I was not a fan of that comment. I don't want players hearing that does not correlate to losing football games. So, but yeah, I think May look pretty good. Which is the bright side with this offense, because even go back to last year saying around Jalen Polk. I know he's out all year, but they traded the Saints for nothing for like a 6th rounder, I believe. Like,
Yeah.
again, it's another
pick.
miss.
Terrible
So,
pick by Elliott Wolf. Terrible
yeah.
pick by Elliott Wolf. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm telling you, I wouldn't if this thing doesn't go. Is
I
6
wouldn't
wins.
either.
I wouldn't be surprised if Vrabel tells him get out. Vrabel tells Bob Kraft get this guy out of here because he's not getting any offensive talent on this team at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And they invested a lot in Vrabel, so I think Kraft would listen to him. So
absolutely, they need to.
Yeah,
they need to. He's been better at his job than Elliott Wolf's been at his job, and that's clearly obvious.
Oh yeah, it has been early on in his tenure because the draft, the only draft pick that looks good right now, Henderson is Drake May. Like it's still too early on Henderson, but like at least you've seen flashes in the preseason. But
listen, you don't give Wolf credit for that. Anybody would have taken Drake May there.
No, anybody, yeah, no, that he fell in his lap there, number 3. But but I do think May plays well, and I do think they figure out a way to win this football game, and I think they hopefully turn over Bryce Young a couple of times, and they get some more turnover luck this week because the last 3 quarters the yards was 303 to like 100, like 350. They had the Patriots like 100 to the Steelers. Like it was insane they lost that football game, but yeah, it was self-inflicted wounds.
Absolutely. It definitely was. It absolutely was. And they need to bounce back this week against the Panthers, or they'll be staring at 1-4 because they got to go to Buffalo on Sunday night next week. Now, we'll move on to the Ireland game between the Steelers and the Vikings. And again, I think this is going to be a close competitive game. But I'm gonna take the Vikings here. I'm gonna take the team with a better defense. I think they forced, just like they did last year. I think they forced a couple turnovers from Aaron Rodgers. I think Carson Wentz manages the game. I think the game comes down to the end with the ball in Rodgers' hands. And you see pretty much outside him playing the Jets in week 1 this year, you've seen how that's gone the last year and a half. Not good. So I am going to go with the Vikings here, 23-17 over the Steelers. But Justin, can Aaron Rodgers lead the Steelers to a 3-1 start?
No, I got the Vikings here too, 2017. I think at this moment, Carson Wentz is a better player than J.J. McCarthy. Just at this moment, I'm not saying in the future, but I think right now they're better suited to have Carson Wentz in there for the time being to help that the Jordan Addison's back. And, I think the Vikings do enough here, offensively, and their defense makes enough plays against Aaron Rodgers, and that seals offense. And the Vikings win their first of their 1 to 2 legs out of Europe the next couple weeks.
All righty, moving on to the Commanders and the Falcons. They'll meet up in Atlanta this week. 2-1 Commanders, 1-2 Falcons. We don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to play. We don't know if Terry McLaurin's going to play. But even if those guys don't play, I still think Washington's going to win. I like Washington. I like their run game. I think Mariota played pretty well last week. I know the Falcons defense has improved, but I think Mariota played pretty well last week. But I think that Michael Penix is going to struggle again. I think he's going to struggle again. And I think the Commanders, I think Dan Quinn's going to get revenge against his former team. I got the Commanders and Dan Quinn beating his former team. I got the Commanders winning this one 20-17. But Justin, can Michael Penix bounce back this week and get the Falcons to 2-2?
No, I think he shows again this week. I got the Commanders 24-18. I think Penix probably throws another couple interceptions. I think the Commanders try to get some pressure on him because I do think the Commanders defense has played better than I've expected it early on here. And Penix just hasn't looked comfortable out there, for whatever reason still. And because they do have the weapons for him, and I think he does struggle again this week. I think they kick a bunch of field goals in this one. I think Mariota plays well, and he does enough offensively. Either Mariota or Daniels. So I think they do enough offensively, and Washington wins another football. Gets her go moves 3-1.
All righty, we know Detroit and Cleveland are battling for the AL Central. We'll get to that in our second show. We know they're battling out for the AL Central, but they also are battling out. Those two cities are also battling out on the gridiron this week as the Browns take on the Lions. It's gonna be an interesting game because the Browns defense has played really well. They're great at stopping the run. That's Wessinger guy from UCLA. Right now, really, he should be defensive. He should be the favorite for defensive rookie of the year. He's been playing great for them. He's great in coverage. He's been great against the run. He's been great for them so far for the Browns, and he's helped this Browns defense be at least they're right now. There's no question they're a top 10 defense with the way they're playing. The problem is the Browns' offense is awful. The Browns' offense is terrible. They haven't scored more than 17 points yet. So it'll be interesting. You pretty much got Detroit's great running game against the Browns' great run defense, but I got to take Detroit's great running game here. I got to take Detroit's great running game. I still think they get contained. They might get held under 100 yards, but I think they still get at least 90 yards rushing. I still think they get contained. I think Jared Goff still throws 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I think that the Lions defense forces Flacco to turn the ball over a couple of times. And I got the Lions here. I'm going with the Lions. They proved last week that they are still one of the NFL's elite outside of their bad performance in week 1. They proved they're still one of the NFL's elite. and I'm going Lions here. I got the Lions 30-17. But Justin, can the Browns defense carry them to another upset win?
I think they will this week. I got Detroit as well, 24-10. I think Flacco's gonna probably get sacked 4 or 5 times this week. I think that offensive line's gonna struggle. But I think Cleveland's even gonna keep them in it for like a half here. Maybe keep it close. And the other rookie too for Cleveland, Mason Graham's been playing. I think he's been playing pretty well too up front. So Cleveland defense, they got some good young guys. I know, we'll see what they can do in the future and help the offense. But I like Detroit in this one. I think they win a couple scores. I think Goff looked pretty good. And yeah, outside of week 1, where I think Detroit still figure things out, they've looked like they did last year. They still creative play calling. They run that fourth and goal. They run that option play. St. Brown pitches out to Gibbs. So they're still pretty creative offensively.
Ben Johnson's gone, and they're still creative. What a job Dan Campbell has done in Detroit to change the culture there. They went from one of the worst organizations to one of the best organizations because of their GM Brad Holmes and their head coach Dan Campbell. Moving on to the most lopsided game in Week 4, and maybe the most lopsided game of the NFL season, as the Saints travel to Buffalo to face the Bills. And I think this is going to be a complete blowout. I think Allen's going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think James Cook's going to have a huge day on the ground. I think they're going to force Rattler to turn the ball over. And I think this game is probably going to be over by the beginning of the third quarter. I think there's a point that Mr. Trubisky is more than likely going to finish this game because it's going to be such a blowout. I'm going Bills here 34-10. And Justin, I assume you got the same.
Yeah, I got Buffalo at 34-13. Yeah, the Saints looked awful in their first road game last week. I think Rattler's going to struggle again this week on the road, and I think Allen's going to tear up that defense, and they're going to do whatever they want this week. And the Saints fall behind early in this one, and the Bills kind of are unable to get a lot of pressure on Rattler, and that's where he struggles. And I think he's going to have problems with that again this week.
We got a matchup of 2 0-3 teams in Houston, as the 0-3 Titans face the 0-3 Texans. But I'm taking the team that shouldn't be 0-3, and that's the Houston Texans. Again, Houston's offensive line's a disaster, so that's why I think Tennessee's going to stay in the game, because they're going to get some sort of pressure against. It's like the Cowboys defense. You're going to score against the Cowboys defense. You're going to get pressure against Houston's offensive line. That's what happens when you trade, one of the best left tackles in the league in Laramie Tunsil. I think there's going to be pressure. There might be a turnover. Stroud might turn the ball over. But in this game, I just got to take the better team, and that's the Texans. And they lost the Titans last year in Houston. I think they get their revenge here. I got the Texans 20-13 over the Titans. But, Justin, can the Titans win their second straight game in Houston? That was their last win they had.
No. Yeah, the last one they had, and they're not going to get this week. I got Texans as well, 17-10. Yeah, the Texans have felt like some bad luck the first couple weeks that haven't gone their way. And Stroud, because that offensive line's so bad, he kind of looks broken out there. He's gone such a far away from his rookie year. It's unfortunate, but the organization hasn't helped him out very much. You mentioned it, trading Tunsil away, trading Shaq Mason away. It hasn't helped, and I do think they find a way to win this week. And I think it's their defense plays really well, forced a couple turnovers, and Stroud does enough here to take advantage of a couple short fields.
Interesting matchup in LA as the 3-0 Colts take on the 2-1 Rams. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think Daniel Jones is going to continue to play well. I think that Matthew Stafford's going to play well too. I think the Rams are going to be able to run the ball with Kyren Williams. I think it's going to come down to the end, but Daniel Jones has played really well. The Colts punted for the first time last week. Daniel Jones played really well. I don't want to disrespect what the Colts have done, but 2 of these 3 wins have been against probably 2 of the worst teams in the league, with the Dolphins and the Titans. I know they got a really good win against the Broncos. I think this game comes down to the end, but I still don't trust Daniel Jones at the end of the game. I still don't. I think he's going to make a mistake. He's going to make a mistake at the end, and I think the Colts are going to have their first loss, and the Rams are going to win this game 28-24. But if the Colts win, we got to be talking about them being Super Bowl contenders, because they would be going on the road being a legitimate opponent.
Yeah, they absolutely would. And you mentioned it, because the other win for the Colts against that Broncos team, they were trailing most of that second half too. I know they were out, but and then they got the game-winning field goal there. So yeah, but I think the Rams get them this week, 27-21. I think the way the Rams blew that game last week, I think get an angry team. I think Stafford plays well back at home. I know that Colts defense is. I know they gave up 27 or 28 to the Broncos offense, and Knicks hasn't looked great. I still don't buy their defense. I do think I do think Stafford's going to play well. That offense is going to play well. I think Daniel Jones will make some plays this week, but I do think that Rams pass rush is going to get to him. and they'll force them to make a mistake or two in the Rams win here at home and bounce back from last week.
All righty, we got another AFC South team heading west as we got the Jaguars at 2-1 facing the Niners who are 3-0. And Mac Jones has played well. Maybe maybe Bill Belichick shouldn't be hiring Matt Patricia as offensive coordinator after you make
He's
the playoffs.
got a lot of problems right now.
Yeah, he does now in Chapel Hill. Yeah. And for this game, when I look at it, I just don't see the Jags being 3-1. I don't. I think Mac Jones is going to win another one. I think he's going to manage the game. He's going to win another one. I think that he's going to play well. He's going to get the ball to Ricky Pearsall. I think Ricky Pearsall's going to have a good game here. And I think the Niners defense, even though they don't have Bosa, they're going to blitz. They're going to see a lot of blitzing. I think they're going to force Lawrence to turn over the ball once or twice. And in a close one, I'm taking the Niners here. I get the Niners winning 23-16 over the Jags. But Justin, can Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence lead the Jags to a 3-1 start?
No, I'm with you. I got the Niners 24-20. I'm not buying the Jaguars quite yet. I know they have the most drops in the league. I know Brian Thomas has not looked good at all, and they got to figure him out. But I think Mac Jones, they get that running game going this week. I know there's no Bosa for the remainder of the year, which is tough. That injury bug just still has not left San Francisco, but I still think Mac Jones plays well. Pearsall has a good game. McCaffrey out of the backfield, receiving wise, has a big game. I think even can have a nice game on the ground here. And I'm still not buying the Jags yet. So I will take San Francisco here to move to 4-0 with all the injuries that they have. Have to feel pretty good about themselves 4-0 with the injuries that they've already had.
And speaking of the injuries, the big question is now Bosa is out for the season with a torn LCL or ACL. Are the Niners a playoff team without Nick Bosa? Are they a playoff team? And yes, I thought the Cardinals would be at the beginning of the year, but with Connor out, I think that's a big part of their offense. They're going to miss him. And with the coaching too, I think Kyle Shanahan's a really good coach. I don't think they win the division. I think the Rams win the division, but I do think the Niners sneak into the playoffs. I do think they sneak into the playoffs because of the coaching, and they're going to get Purdy back, and they're going to eventually get Ayuk back and Kittle back. I do think the Niners are going to sneak into the playoffs at like 10-7. I do think they are a playoff team. And Robert Saleh, he's a terrible head coach, but he's a very, very good defensive coordinator. I think he's going to make adjustments. He's going to do you're going to see a lot of blitzing. You're going to see, them playing. So you're going to see a lot more blitzing from the 49ers. So I do think the Niners are a playoff team without Bosa.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they will, the schedule too. I know next couple of weeks they got to go to LA, the Rams and the Bucs, but there's not a lot of tough games on there, outside of divisional games. So I do think the Niners will sneak in there with 9-10 wins. When they get Purdy back, when they get Kittle, you mentioned back, when they get all those guys back, when they get a little bit healthier, I think they sneak in one of those wild card spots. And it's solid too. He's an upgrade from Steve Wilkes as a DC as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think because you're seeing Wilkes, and I thought that team last year had more talent defensively than what they were showing. So I think it helped defensively that they got Rob South back in there.
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. Matchup of 1-2 teams in Vegas as the Bears take on the Raiders. And I'm not high on the Bears, and I think I think Caleb Williams is going to have an up and down season, but I think he's going to continue to play well because I was not impressed with the Raiders defense at all on Sunday. They looked awful out in Washington. They looked awful. So I think that Caleb Williams is another big game. I do think Geno Smith and I think Ashton Genty has a good game here. I think he runs the ball well. I think Geno Smith plays well. But I think in the end, Caleb Williams leads that game-winning drive. And I got the Bears beating the Raiders 27-24. But Justin, can Geno Smith and Pete Carroll bounce back for a bad week last week, bad last 2 weeks, and get to 2-2?
Yeah, I'm going to take Vegas in this one, 28-23. I think Geno does bounce back and plays well this week. He's been sacked already 12 times. That offensive line's a mess. And, hopefully they can get Genty going because the Bears defense has given up almost 5 yards a carry so far early on. If they really can't get Genty this week going, it's going to be pretty tough all year because it's one of the poorest rush defense teams out there so far this year. So I think Caleb Williams is going to make some plays. You mentioned the Raiders defense is atrocious, but I'll take Pete Carroll to in this Raiders team to figure it out this week. And I do think Geno just outplays Caleb Williams just enough in this one, and the Raiders get the first home win of the year.
We got an AFC East matchup in Miami of two 0-3 teams on Monday Night Football as the Jets travel down to Miami to face the Dolphins. I think this game is close. I think this game is competitive, but Aaron Glenn's team has been knocking on that door. They've been knocking on that door, and I think they finally open it on Sunday night. On Monday night. I think they finally do. I think I think I think their hard work pays off here. And he made that comment last week. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have made the comment about the same old Jets because they're still losing games.
They are the same old Jets.
They are the same old Jets. Yeah. Aaron Glenn shouldn't have made that comment, but I do think Aaron Glenn. I think the Jets are in a little bit of a better way than the Dolphins. It's gonna be interesting to see how the Dolphins, because they were competitive. That's the bar. Being competitive is the bar, but I just feel like the Dolphins are either Tua's going to throw a pick or their defense is going to make a stop late in the game. So I'm going to go with the Jets here. I'm going with the Jets 24-23 over the Dolphins. But Justin, can Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins try to get this thing going? And can they win on Monday night and try to save McDaniel's job?
No, I got the Jets here with you, 26-23. You mentioned it. The Jets have been kind of at that door, knocking it down, and they've been close. And last week, Aaron Glenn thought they had it with a minute and a half left. The way he was high stepping down the sideline there, I knew the Bucs were going to go down in there and kick the field goal after I saw that. But I think the Dolphins do put up some points this week. I do think Tua has a decent game. I think they get that running game going, but I think the Jets rushing attack in this one just carves up this Miami's defense here that really hasn't been able to stop anybody either. And I'll take the Jets to get out of Miami with a win, and Aaron Glenn to get his first win as a head coach here.
All right, we'll wrap up talking about the Broncos and the Bengals. Jake Browning against Bo Nix. Broncos have not played as well as they should have been playing, but I'm still going to take a Sean Payton coach team against Zach Taylor and a backup quarterback. I know the Bengals beat him last year, but that's because they had Joe Burrow. I think that the Broncos run the ball pretty well. I think Bo Nix throws a couple touchdowns against that Bengals defense. I think Browning moves the ball, but I think they kick field goals once they get into the red zone. I'm going Broncos here. It's hard to pick against Sean Payton against a backup quarterback and against Zach Taylor. So I got the Broncos here 27-19. But Justin, can Jake Browning get the Bengals back on track and get them to 3-1?
No, I'm with you. I got the Bengals 23-14. I think it'd be a difficult one for Browning. He did not play well last week at all. I think Denver's gonna get pressure on him. I think Bo Nix plays pretty well this week and bounces back because he does not look good early. I think the Broncos win this game by 2 scores.
All right, it should be an interesting Monday night game in Cincinnati. But that is going to wrap it up for this edition of Sports Talk with R&J. But we'll be back in about 15 minutes to talk about the pennant races in Major League Baseball and the huge matchup in Happy Valley. So make sure you tune in for that.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.